Ravi, what was the first moment when you looked at this industry and you felt there is something that needs to be fixed, and I think I'm the one who can fix it?
Oh, that's a huge, precious question that I can fix it. No, actually, I don't consider myself a fixer. Often it's the entrepreneurs and the team who lead to the success. I'm the catalyst. I try to work in the objective interest of the business. For example, uh, you introduced me to a father-son duo. And I would say since the past 7 years at least, 50% of my clientele have been uh, intergenerations, different generations. And with that generation gap comes a different way of thinking, a different way of taking decisions, a different way of solving problems. There's a cringe factor that many of Gen Z or millennials have with age. So there's ageism, and this is not cool. And I use many of the words now that they do. But what I try and tell them when I sort of arbitrate between when they have a different view on different things is, I'm not going to side with you, boomers, just because you're the financiers. I'm not going to side with you, Gen Z, because you hired me, you saw me on Insta and hired me. I'm not going to, side with you, millennials, because, for whatever reason. I'm going to side with whichever of your thoughts are in the objective interest of your business. So the first thing is they calm down because of that. And when that happens, the first thing is that there's an alignment between the entrepreneurs themselves. Otherwise, there's a misalignment. Then that sort of disperses down to the team. Then nothing I say or do works. So I must start there on the top, the mindset, and bring them to an equal platform. And then what happens is, this mindset issue is that if I find, say, they're taking decisions and I'm worried about 10 of those decisions, I have to choose my battles with them. I have to think that, okay, out of these 10 decisions, perhaps 8 are things which don't have a great impact on the business. Let them have their way. I'll point it out to them so that they know that they won. They won on those 8 points. But maybe 2 points may have a deep and wide impact on that business. And in some cases, it could be fatal to the business. So I need to fight them on that. There I become very vocal. And there they really need to reconsider things, because a series of good decisions can lead to a successful business, particularly when they are these big, important ones. So I'd like to believe that I'm not a fixer, I'm a catalyst, and I can't claim that, this industry needed fixing. I'm just a small, tiny contributor.
Like, I remember after I finished studying computer science and then an MBA in marketing, I was the good son. I came back and I joined my parents. They ran a water treatment company. And while I was in there, I set up the customer care division. They didn't have anything called customer care. So I set up customer care, and I used to deal with a lot of laboratories. We used to send samples across the country. And while the reports, the quality and all was okay, once you sent a sample, no, you would never hear from them. You have to call back. You have to keep following up for like 4 weeks. And a lot of decisions are based on those reports coming in. And I remember saying, yeah, there has to be a better way. And the real cherry on the top was, I remember once there's one report we had sent to a lab in Delhi. And it was 3 weeks, I called 4 weeks. And finally, I think it's like 5 weeks done, I'm talking to the guy. He's like, yeah, I'm working on your sample only. I was like, oh, cool. Finally, thank you. And then I hear like a glass breaking. And then he's like, oh shit, acid. And then the phone, I can hear the phone like, because he dropped the phone, he dropped acid on himself. When he was doing this, something fell. Because he was answering the phone, I was like, 1 second. I think this industry requires something better.
Sure.
Not in terms of just the testing, in terms of customer care. So I remember when we started with the first person, right? She was a chemist. Second, we hired a microbiologist. The third person I hired was a customer care person. Because I'm like, no matter whichever clients we get, they have to be taken care of. They can't be talking to the chemist or the microbiologist. So right from the beginning, we've always had a lot more customer-facing people than most of our industry. And I think it has helped because today, that is what we're known for. We are known as a customer-friendly thing. People can reach us at 11 o'clock at night. You call any Equinoxian. They'll pick up the phone with the same enthusiasm as if you call them at 10 in the morning. Right? Because you understand, if you're calling me at 11 at night, you're not calling for fun, you're calling for...
I've experienced that with Equinox. But there are many companies, I'd say, without naming them, across sectors. A water purifier company, for example, after they've done their sales, their after sales is terrible, and there's no accountability at all. In my experience in customer service, is so important that I say customer service is not a department; it's everyone's responsibility. Because what happens is, if I say that customer care is something which I'm not responsible for, or because I'm a chef, or I'm someone taking reservations, whatever it is, then we're not integrated as a team, because a company or a brand needs to be represented by every touch point, every person who's interacting is not transactional. It should be about a relationship. And therefore, I absolutely wonderful example that you gave of the importance of customer care. Completely.
So one thing whenever I talk to the team, I was like, and especially my sales team, right? Because we reach out to a lot of folks every day. One thing which I say, which many freshers find very counterintuitive. The first thing I tell people is, your job is not to sell. And they're like, oh, hi, we are in sales. I'm like, your job is to solve. Understand the customer's challenges, understand what stage they're at, what help they need, and guide them based on that. Don't try and make a sale. Your sale will happen by itself.
Absolutely.
Almost every first-time food founder, whenever they talk to us, you will not hear us pitching anything. We'll be just like, okay, what stage are you at? Okay, you need help with this. We almost do like a 30-40 minute free consultation with them about whatever they need in their business. We may tell them 15 things, out of which 3 may be done by us, 12 are done by not us, but then they need it done. But this mindset has won us so many hearts, right? People, even there are times, because see, every person we talk to we can't work with.
Absolutely.
And that's fine. Cost reasons, logistic reasons, whatever it is.
Correct.
Even if they don't work with us, they'll refer us. And I think that shows that we're doing something right in that space. Coming back to industry, what are some of the myths or, things that people misunderstand about the restaurant industry?
I think the glitz and the glamour is very exciting. I've come across many entrepreneurs who want to buy an occupation. Sometimes for themselves, sometimes for their spouses, sometimes for their children. And that's the most dangerous approach to have. So I'd say that's one of the myths. Another one I've seen is that if I have a good recipe, or my family recipe, and everyone has said it's fantastic, or if I get myself a good chef, I can set up a business. And why that's very dangerous is because money is the oxygen of our business. And however passionate you might be about food, though we're talking about the food business, you can't fuel that passion without the oxygen, which is money. So the business aspect of that is very, very important. Another myth is the kind of time it takes, that you require to invest in the business, that you need to spend in the business, and that you need the time that you need to make money. People feel that, they see cafes with lines waiting outside. They think that they will start spending money overnight. They don't realize the hard work that has gone behind the scenes, because you're only seeing what's in front. And you find that people think that I will just delegate it to my managers. I will hire people. It'll all get done. I've told well-known celebrities in this country who want to start their own restaurant that if you want to set up a restaurant which has your name attached to it, tie up with a management firm who is going to run the business for you. But if you think you're going to hire a team and you can't give me even 15 days, even half an hour every 15 days or every month, don't get into this business. You're not going to get a great return on investment. Very rarely does a restaurant business make a serious amount of money. So these are some of the myths that I've seen.
So you've worked with a lot of founders, right? I've also worked with a bunch of founders. There is a difference between passion and obsession.
Yeah.
Where do you think that line is, and have you ever crossed that line?
I think that passion is something which helps us sustain our interest, particularly when times are low, when you're twiddling your thumbs, there are no sales. what do you do with that time? And I'm particularly experienced with monetized time and non-monetized time. As a consultant, I have to bifurcate my time in that. And I think that passion is very, very important. But there are certain aspects where obsession could be taken as something negative, that you're getting, obsessed with this and you're not really experiencing the business, you're not really enjoying the business, and you've become so obsessed with it that you've missed the forest for the trees. And that happens, I've seen it in a few cases. For example, there are many cases, not one particular sector, I'm just giving an example, like a private equity firm who has invested money in a certain food chain, chain of eateries. And they owe allegiance to their investors. They have to give back a certain return in a certain duration. They sell the idea to operators, and the operators and they agree that they will have a certain return on investment. Now, when they go forward and take that passion so much that I will tell a restaurant manager, don't look at only the experience of your guests. Look at this in terms of everything, in terms of a price tag. Tell the chef, look at your food cost. Of course, look at your food cost. But if the chef starts seeing everything from the eyes of food cost alone, then that creativity, that innovativeness, because we are a people business at the end of the day. So if we forget that, obsession may lose your perspective, lose you your perspective. So one has to be careful of walking that path.
So I think if you're going to be doing any form of business, passion is absolutely mandatory. The reason is it's not always good times. It's not always reels and, I'm popping champagne.
Yeah.
That's 0.01% of most founders' lives, which gets portrayed online.
Yes.
Right? Like people hitting the dong when they're launching their company public and all of that. So all these momentous occasions are such a small sliver. But to get to those slivers, the amount of hard work, heartburn that founders have to go through is ridiculous. And the only way you can sustain that is if you're passionate. At the same time, when it comes to obsession, I am torn in two. So one is I do call myself obsessed. And I get obsessed with smallest of things. And back in the day, I would not launch if every single detail wasn't, perfect. I'd like delay the launch by 2 months. It's okay. I've reduced that a little bit. Not much, a little bit,
Okay.
right? Because I realize that perfection sometimes is hindering progress. And today, progress is needed because company has unlimited funds unless you're one of the top 10 in the country, in the world. Everyone has limited funds, everyone has limited time. Markets are dynamic. So if you have a good idea, and if it's not perfect, go ahead and launch it. And so in one of my tech companies, we have a saying that if you are not embarrassed of your first launch, you launch too late.
Good one.
Right? So applying the same thing to restaurants, typically how long, like let's say I have an idea and I put funds behind it, I get committed to it, I know I hire fantastic people, let's say I bring you on board. From an ideation to me launching a restaurant, what does a timeline typically look like? Is it like a month, 2 months? Is it like a 3-6 month thing?
No, not. It's not like that. So it depends on. See, when you're building something, when you're building a building, you have to have a foundation that is deep enough that commensurates with what you see.
Correct.
What you can't see is what you're investing. So, for me, behind the scenes, we start off with building a concept. If the person has already reached a concept stage, things may be different. To what extent that concept has evolved in terms of uniqueness, in terms of distinction, in terms of relevance in the marketplace, I try to evaluate that. Or if it's from scratch, do they want market research to be done before we even launch, to validate that they have 3 shortlisted concepts, and within that, let's validate and see which of them seem to be something in an underserved market. So first try to evaluate that, because many people are so excited with their concept and they think it'll work that they start off and they have started too soon. They've placed their bets on something without validating that. So I think while instinct is very important, I believe that a combination of instinct and data in terms of marketing, by marketing, I mean market research, is required. However experienced the bunch of people might be, the entrepreneurs, the consultants, the team leaders, etc., I believe do your due diligence to start with. That's one bucket of thing. Once you've kind of shortlisted that and put a structure to it in terms of this will be broadly the concept, then try to put some numbers to it. And these numbers could vary. I mean, I could spend $50 on a plate, 5,000 or 500 rupees on buying a plate, depending on what kind of concept it is. I need to understand if there's a certain level of service, what are the caliber of people that I need to hire? In terms of brand positioning, who is my target audience? What will resonate with them? How will I build my brand from a name to the logo, to the fonts, to the colors? Who are the heroes? The target audience have heroes. Those heroes may be brands, companies. Those heroes may be people, Indian or international or whatever. Get into the psyche of the target audience and align that concept and those numbers first with that. And for me, that's phase one. That may take, depending on how advanced a stage they are, that may take 2 months, 3 months, 6 months even.
Oh, wow.
I've had entrepreneurs that I've worked with before I've joined them. They've spent a year in thinking through one of them has even taken up a place on rent, but realized, fortunately, before launching, that let's first validate that it's okay if I burn some cash rather than first launch it and then discover I made a big mistake. And phase two would be execution. Between the two, it could be that the entrepreneur says, look, the kind of returns I was expecting, the kind of time I thought I'd put in is very different. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to abort the business. So then you don't go to phase two at all.
Interesting.
And if you want to go to phase two, then I could help with execution, where we actually start, looking for spaces, build the brand parallelly, look for team members, look for what kind of food and beverage or entertainment may be required for these people, what kind of price points, because the value proposition is very important. As Albert Einstein once said, try not to be a man of success, try to be a man of value. So if you give the value, the success will come. So overall, if I say phase one, like I said, 2 months, 6 months, it could be anything depending on how deep you want to get into research. Some people say, no, I want to take a call, I'm going for it straight away. Or I have a franchise model, I've taken a franchise from someone. So that timeline for that could vary based on that. And the part two, from the time you sign up a place, it may take 6 months. It may sometimes take even 9 months if the license is not available. So you should look for a place where either licenses are already there, but there's a lot of money chasing those few places where the licenses are already there. And if you're a first timer, you won't get that place. It'll be someone who's experienced, because the landlord also wants continuity. But if you're someone who's been around for a while, or you're finding a place which really looks good, doesn't have a license, it may take you 3 months, 6 months before you get your food license, your liquor license. There are many hurdles along the way because there's no one point answerability. So, 6 months, 9 months broadly for this phase one, phase two could be the case, like a baby, 9 months,
Wow.
like that.
That means from ideation to starting something can be as low as 6 months and as high as 9 months to a year, maybe
That's
longer.
exactly right.
Wow. Okay. So there's a lot more hard work that goes than you would imagine.
Like I said, the foundation.
Yeah. Have you ever looked back at a project and thought, that broke me more than it built me?
At that moment, sometimes yes, where the entrepreneur has been a jerk or has been just very transactional and said, I've paid you this money, you need to deliver. And that person oftentimes has never been an entrepreneur before. That person may be a senior leader who's been an employee, but you could be the CEO of a company, a national head of a certain division of a company. But if you've never experienced entrepreneurship, then you don't know what to expect, and you behave accordingly. I don't blame the person because that's not in his gamut of understanding. However much he earned, he may earn many crores of rupees every year, but has zero understanding of entrepreneurship. So at that moment, it feels like, oh God, this is like terrible. But when I look back, I say that it takes all kinds to make this happen. And most often, people like that do not succeed. 99% of the time, I can predict the outcome when I see that the person is behaving. It's not about how they behave with me. That's secondary. It's how they behave with their team, how they behave with their guests, how they behave when people aren't watching or they think people aren't watching, but people are always watching. And I think you can tell that uh, that is that person's journey. I've learned not to be judgmental, too much beyond a point. At the most, I might say I'd like to bow out of this because I can't add value any further. And why continue? Because it's not going to lead anywhere.
So there have been so many multiple projects and multiple people in this project, customer side, where after doing the project, again, difficult people. So most of the time it's difficult people. It's not the challenge of the work. Work is always going to be challenging and that's always fun.
Yeah.
It's people who make the journey difficult, right? And there have been, I mean, I don't get frustrated easily. I'm normally, when there is chaos, I'm calm as a cucumber. So that's one of my superpowers. But if somebody is able to go under my skin, and that's very rare. And I always, at that point, I will always be like, why did we choose to work with this customer? We should be looking at better people, da da da. And there is frustration. I can see my team's frustration. My team is, because if I'm pulling out my hair, my team has already gone bald by pulling out all their hair.
Yeah.
Only then it would normally reach me.
Completely.
Right. And at that time, two things go through my mind. One is, look at the resilience of my team, that they were still able to handle the client without losing theirs, even though the customers being overly negative, right? But two, every time something like this has happened, every single time, we as an organization and me as a person has come out stronger, right?
Sure.
They're literally, like, in a year I can count on maybe fingertips how many times I have felt frustration. But every single time I felt it, let it be an audit that has been extra difficult, a customer, a project that customers promise this but give you this and shortchange you, and crores are outstanding and all of that. But every time this has happened, I've always personally come out stronger, and as an organization, we've come out stronger. So many a times, I've started, funny enough, enjoying the chaos,
Yep.
which has been a very rare thing. And one of my very close friends, he says, I love to play in chaos, because when there's chaos, and he plays in the markets, he's like, when there's chaos in the markets, everyone else is losing their cool.
Yes.
He's like, I can spot opportunities. I've not been able to spot opportunities yet, but at least we come out stronger.
That's Warren Buffett is your friend.
I wish.
No, I have had the same experience. For example, if you see a family-run business, sometimes, not always, sometimes they're very open, and I've been blessed to have such organizations. In fact, I think I connected you with one of them, and Equinox did a fabulous job there. But some family-run organizations say, this is the way we've been doing it for so long, so we want to continue. So the moment I hear that thread of narrative, I know, okay, there's some fun coming along. That's going to be happening. Or there's a bunch of senior leaders who've had experience in the corporate world, and they are kind of new to the business world. Either they're functioning under the umbrella of their own company, or they've hived off into their own private business. And there the narrative is not spoken, but it's unspoken. I know it all. You're just here because we think you should be here, or because your resume would look good to our investors. So we want to have you on board. So I say, we're walking down that path. So, I mean, there will always be people like that. And I also feel that that's a part of the people, that's a part of our journey when people like you and I help build the journeys of such entrepreneurs. And then we learn, as you said, who we choose to work with or not in future.
So I have become a lot more choosier on projects where I will personally put my time, right? And that's a luxury. I know that comes from a very privileged place today.
Yes.
I didn't have that luxury 19 years ago. Whoever came, we would work with.
Likewise.
I didn't have a choice there. Coming back to the business side of things, what is an indicator, like a sure shot indicator of failure when it comes to either a restaurant or a founder?
I've gone into the depth of this for many years. Because I've been fortunate to work with very successful entrepreneurs, some who have shut shop, some businesses of mine which did well, some which didn't. And I've created a self-assessment test. for
Interesting.
free. It's for free completely on my website, raviwazir.com. And it's called Quiz. 30 minutes, 30 questions, multi-choice questions. And there may be 3 to 5 answers in each question. And sometimes the nuance of each answer is slightly different. And it tells me what your attitude is, what your behaviors might be in certain scenarios. So I put those scenarios before these potential restaurateurs. I call it restaurant readiness quiz.
Interesting.
So it will help, and it's a 24/7 free automatic email which comes to you, which is a set of my thoughts, which comes as a report to you, pretty much on the spot. Because I've coached people live, and I feel that I should give back something for free. And so it will tell you these are your strengths if you want to start up a restaurant. These are your weaknesses, what you should work on and how you can work on them. And these areas are so weak that they are a threat. It could be fatal for your business. You better not run it, or better be sure, or hire someone else as your partner to fulfill those things. So it's not just one thing, Ashwin. It's like a gamut of attitudes, behaviors in certain scenarios, because we can't be prepared for everything. We saw the pandemic, for example.
Absolutely.
There we learned that you can't predict, but you can prepare to be nimble. So this is like that. It gives you clues when someone responds that if I put you in this situation, how would you respond? Then there would be clues that would you be a good potential restaurateur? Would you have the patience? How would you respond to this? Would you get irritated? So then I can tell you how to improve yourself if you want to be a restaurateur.
So a lot of my friends are founders. A lot of the people who work with Equinox, if I'm dealing with them, most of the time I'm dealing with founders. And I've seen a lot of businesses start, and I've also seen a lot of businesses shut. One common factor that I've seen at a founder level is ego. If a person comes with a very large ego, right, and they have nothing to back it up. What I mean is, see, if you're a billionaire and you have an ego and understand, hey, you've made, you know what you're talking about, you know what you're doing, and it's showing. But if you don't have that, and you have an ego which doesn't, and your skills don't match the ego that that follows, the chance of success is almost negligible, because today nobody wants to work with people who will put them down. Nobody wants to work with people who do not appreciate what you do. Nobody wants to work with people who do not let you do what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
Like if you hire good people, let them do what you hired them for. Do not try and meddle with them. See,
Sure.
if you hire a fresher, yes, you need to spend more time molding them and so on and so forth. But if you hired an expert, there's a reason you hired an expert. Let them do what they're supposed to do, right? So,
no, ego is definitely a pivotal point. I've had the experience of such jokers, I would say, and I do not condone a person who is accomplished and wealthy, that it's okay if he has an ego, because as you rightly said, in my experience as well, that ego goes against them. I've had some of the best names in this industry, the most successful, who've been humble enough to bounce ideas off me. For me, that is huge. In turn, they don't pay me. I don't expect that. But in turn, they give me access to them. So that's huge, that knowledge exchange. But there are some who are either very wealthy, or some today who are very experienced but have such a chip on their shoulder that how can I ask someone, I will look small. And that means that person has stopped learning. And that is the saddest part of an entrepreneur.
I was about to say that if a person stops learning, I think it's the decline has already begun.
The death, in fact, the death of an entrepreneur or death of any professional, the day they don't genuinely have. See, many people talk the talk that I have a student mind, but they don't walk the talk. You can see it in their every attitude. And then you will know whether this person is walking the talk or just talking the talk.
So the funny part is I know a lot of very, very successful people, like who are maybe 100x more successful than me. I would expect them to be rude. I would expect them to have a chip on the shoulder. But funny enough, the more, I'm going to use money as a metric here, the more richer they are. I'm not going to say fame, because fame can actually get to ego much faster, right? But the more well-to-do they are financially, the more humble I've seen them. But at the same time, I've seen people who may be earning 1/10 of me. their ego is 100 times bigger than me because they're popular online.
Exactly.
Right? So popularity,
Yes.
funny enough,
Yes.
can lead to an inflated ego. And it's not money. So I used to always wonder, when I was younger, I used to always think money is ego, more money, more ego.
Yes.
Surprisingly, that's the opposite, right? Which was a very interesting observation. Coming to money and fame, what do you think of the idea of celebrities being brand ambassadors for restaurants? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it brings in a lot of attention to start with. It can bring people in for the first meal. Subsequently, if the restaurant doesn't deliver on their food service ambience, then you won't be able to bring people in again. What I've found is that, people may be running their restaurant, some celebrities run their restaurant as a marketing expenditure. That means that I don't care if I'm losing a few lakhs every month. I have other businesses. I'm a celebrity, or I'm an industrialist, or I'm an actor. And I can fund the losses of this just because I want my guests to have a place to go, a happening place to go. Most of those guests may not be paying. But it's a happening place I've created. It's exclusive because I can afford it. For me, the expense and the loss of that every month is my marketing expenditure. These are real people. This is not, I have worked with some people like that. Yeah.
So, somebody I know, they're in the top families in the country. And somebody in their family is running a business that is losing about 10, 20 lakhs a month. They told me this. I said, oh, wonderful. I said, hey, we need to restructure. And they're like, no, it's okay. I was like, what do you mean it's okay? Like, they're like, no. I'm like, then why are you doing this? If you're losing that kind of money, you're losing 1 crore plus a year. Then it struck me. I'm like, one sec, for this person, 1 crore is like 10,000 bucks.
Yes.
So you mean what is
Drop
10
in the
grand?
ocean.
It's a drop in the ocean. And
Yes.
then I was like, then I actually spoke to their kid
Yeah.
who's not in the business.
Yeah.
And I said, why are they doing this? No, so that they can tell them that, oh, I run a business.
Yeah.
Rather than just saying, oh, I'm enjoying my family wealth.
Correct.
Just so that they can mention they're running a business. And that, I was like, okay, you have to have a different level of wealth. I said, I'm not definitely there. Like, you have to have a different level of wealth.
Like I said, yeah.
Just to keep a business and just so that you can tell them. And
You're buying yourself an occupation, like I said.
I love that.
I have-
Buying yourself an occupation.
I have actually seen the P&L of an industrialist who showed me the numbers for 3 years of losses and said, Ravi, what do you think we should do about this? And I said, why are we still continuing? You can get the same or greater level of service if you host your guests at the best of existing restaurants. You don't need to get into the operational hassles of doing it yourself. Why wouldn't you do that? So then finally the guy agreed, not because he couldn't afford it, but because he agreed that why would you get into this cumbersome stuff? Let's just get the Taj or something like that.
And what is, according to you, a good ROI for a restaurant?
So I've devoted a whole chapter in my book specifically from an investment viewpoint. And there I've shared an example that supposing you have from an investment viewpoint purely, not from a restaurateur viewpoint. See, because when you look at a restaurant as an investment, if you are the promoter and you are the investor, then you expect a return on your time and your money. If you are only the operator, then you are expecting a return on your time, and the person who's investing is expecting a return on their money. So both things have to be considered, whether it is one individual or two.
Correct.
Leave aside for the moment the return on time, because that's a very personal thing. If you've been a CEO of a well-known food business, or you've been a business leader somewhere and you're employed, then that would be the basis of what the people can afford to pay you for your time. But when it comes down to paying you for your money, the return, there's a simple way to look at it. If you look at what is the range that a fixed deposit would earn you, 8%, 10%, company fixed deposit, not a bank fixed deposit, but then you'll pay your tax after you earn something on that. What is, in a good case scenario, in equity? If you invest in stocks, 12%, 18% more, depending on whether you're a day trader, whether you're a long-term player. Basis that, the way to look at restaurant as an investment is what is investment? Taking your money from a place of lower yield and putting it into a place of higher yield. So if I rationalize, I want to be in this business only for the money, then I might say, I don't care if I earn 8% or if I even break even. Sorry, if I want to be for the passion, I don't care if I make money. It's just for the passion. I don't care if I lose money. But if I want to make money on it, then be careful not to expect that it will earn as much as equity, because equity is one of the greatest known investments, even more than real estate across the world, from a long-term viewpoint to build long-term wealth. So if you have an expectation from the beginning, that you will 5x your wealth in 10 years, that's a very tough thing, because that means you're going to beat the stock market. And the stock market is a bunch of people who have at a very senior level in their own respective industries, and the core companies that represent that stock market. Whereas you've got a bunch of people, however experienced they are, who are nowhere paid as much, who are nowhere as experienced, even in this industry, to match those standards of return. But once in a way, you may get lucky.
You've played a very large role in one of my most favorite restaurants, which is Swati. And every time I go there, the first person I think of is you, right? Every time I go there, I order literally like lunch home has come today from Swati. What was your learning from that project? And what is something that I think that the pivotal role you played in that project?
Swati Snacks is, you brought a very emotional point out. Swati Snacks is very close to my heart. They hired me because they wanted their processes to be rationalized and stable. Whether it was building upon their food safety, which you were a part of, whether it was the processes of recipe standardization, whether it was their processes of service, their processes, and actually helped restart their party catering division, which they had stopped for a while. Expansion to Singapore is what we had explored, but then there were reasons why we didn't go that route. Overall expansion and harmonizing the team from appraisals to picnics the way they should be done. Building a sort of integration and coming to a oneness with them, with everyone, was really what I did. I mean, they were born before I was. And what happens is that, as I mentioned, sometimes there are people who have done it this way for a long time. And so there were some battles I did have to fight. But for me, the directors and the team were very cooperative. And that makes all the difference. They were so open-minded, despite having been cheated by some professionals before me. So they were very cautious that, okay, there's someone else now. Is he going to take us for a ride like some of the previous guys did? And I had to earn their trust. I have to earn the trust of everyone once again, whatever my background is. And for me, they will always be like family. I mean, we lost Asha Javeri some time ago, and really a legendary entrepreneur. She jumped into a decision, with both feet in, and the team loved her. I mean, you could see the response of the people who came to say goodbye to her. And her family, fortunately, continues, the legacy. They found ways to, maintain the recipes, but also to innovate the way she used to do. So, the fourth generation founder, Neva, that's Asha's grandniece.
Oh, wow.
Is now following in her footsteps, of course, supported by, her grandfather and her father. And a good team, solid team in place. One of the best teams and one of the best entrepreneurs I've worked with.
So that's one of the restaurants where I've been eating maybe 25, 30 plus years, and the quality has always just been solid, right? If I order the same thing 50 times, it's going to be exactly the same. Like one of my favorite things over there is paneer lifafa. Like my order, I can
Yeah.
is like a standard order, right?
Yeah.
And we've been ordering from there before the Zomato Swiggy days as well. Uh, how do you maintain that kind of quality across? Because I know chefs will come and go, people will
Yes.
come and go. How do you maintain that level of quality and consistency across decades?
Sure.
Forget months and years.
Yes.
This is decades.
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
Yeah. So I think the secret there, in the case of Swati Snacks specifically, is the longevity of their team members. Very few people you will find have changed. A very small percentage of people may have been added on to the team. The people who have left usually have not left for another job, usually have retired 99% of the time.
Oh, wow.
Oh, seriously. They have
incredible.
99% of people who leave Swati Snacks don't leave for another job.
They retired.
If they leave for another job, they are in that 1%. 99% of people who leave only when they retire. The new people who come in are because there is a need to serve more guests in Swati, whether it is a new location, whether it is more party orders that are out of the four brick walls from there in guests. So the secret in Swati's case is work culture, which has led to longevity, which has led to I have been making this for 20 years. My next generation, I have taught, handheld them till I retired, and the next generation of my next generation has come and made it under me for another 10 years. So already there is consistency. You can't beat that. There is no there's no standardized recipe in a on a piece of paper that can match that. That's why work culture really eats strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So when it comes to work culture, that's a topic that's very close to my heart. And I think every company I have started or any company I have admired, what I land up admiring about that company first is their work culture. Because today everyone has options, but people choose to stay where they're respected, where the culture of the company and the culture of their leader. I think these are the two most important factors. Whoever they're working with, that person determines that person's entire reality. You could be in the best company in the world, but if your boss is an ass, it's pointless, because for this person, hey, the whole company is
Yes.
with their bosses.
Yes.
So we spend a lot of time on our leadership, making sure that our leaders are one of the best in their field, but more than that, they're also empathetic and they're great leaders, not managers,
Yes.
not doers of work. Of course, they do great work, but most importantly, they first have to be a great leader. Because today, if people are led well, they don't need to be managed.
Sure.
And I think people should be led and not managed.
100%.
Shifting gears, I want to come to the book now, right? So Beyond the Menu is a very comprehensive, almost like a Bible for starting up a restaurant. What made you write a book?
So I started in the early 1990s. I began writing. I was encouraged to write by the editor of Express Hospitality, which was an Indian Express publication, Sheldon Santwan. He suggested that I write articles for him. I then began to write for Hospitality Biz and a couple of other industry publications. Then I began writing mainstream, which was DNA Money, Forbes India, and various other publications. And along the way, I think my ability to start taking notes about the best practices that I was learning from all these wonderful entrepreneurs and teams that I worked with, whatever I was learning, I was writing down for myself. And I began sharing that with my friends in the industry. And they said, this is really something good and you should write a book. And by that time, I had collected a lot of notes. And the first avatar of the book on this topic of restaurant startup was published in 2005, 2006. That was published by a traditional publisher, English edition, and uh, so that was like a minute manager, a thin kind of a book, because that's the knowledge that I'd gathered until then. And even back in the day, AD Singh, my boss at Olive, was very gracious to read through it, and he was the first person to endorse it on the back of the book. There was also Rashmi Uday Singh, Jigs Kalra, many of them, because it was India's first book on restaurant startup back then.
Fantastic.
And then I went on, based on the feedback that I got from people who read it and who wrote back that it's really valuable, that I felt encouraged to continue building on it as the time went by. Second edition, third avatar, third edition. And then I found myself in a discussion with Jaico, which is India's oldest publishing house. And they said, look, we don't want a fourth edition. We want a new book. And are you willing to rewrite it completely? I said, but there may be some thoughts which are there. And this is post-pandemic. So I said, I will write a new book. And we worked together. They said, okay, we agreed to work together, paid me the advance. I began developing further. And then we launched last year, ironically at Olive itself, where it all began in the year 2000.
So how long did it take you to write this edition? Like a year?
So this edition is, yes, it took me about a year.
Okay.
The first avatar took me about 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
So if you count all the time that I've invested in the business, it's many hours. I mean, there were times when my daughter, in my first book, my daughter Tiny was on my lap. So in the middle of the night, if I would have thoughts, and it's my watch, because my wife was looking after my daughter in the day, so I had her on my lap. And I think even now, in the old days, the keyboards used to have the noise, the click, 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 click. I think she will sleep soundly, because my wife would say, why are you waking up in the middle of the night and doing this now? You can do it in the morning. And I say, no, I will forget. So I was obsessed, unfortunately, to write in that way, because the thoughts were it was just bursting. I had to put it down on paper because I knew that they were valuable, and I had got feedback that they are valuable. Not that I was thinking of myself as someone great, because if you write a book for yourself, it's called vanity publishing. And there are many people who you can pay, who will do it. And you can be self-published as well. But for a traditional publisher to publish an author, they would need to see a sizable target audience who would pay money for it, so that they can at least cover their costs, if not make money, because they are the ones who are investing that time in, creating the cover beautifully, doing the editing so many times, giving suggestions on the content, and having it distributed in distribution channels. So I'm very happy if they are making the money, as long as I get that reach and distribution as an author.
So in your book, you kind of lay out the foundations of, starting a restaurant. But what is the one thing that you wish somebody had told you at the beginning of your journey?
I think I was blessed, and I'll share one experience what I mean. Early in my career, because of my grandfather's hotel. So I was all of 13 years old when I had decided that I'm going to get into this industry, after a couple of times that I visited the hotel in Pahalgam. And I told my grandfather that I'd like to get into this business. And he said, okay, I have a task for you. He wanted to see my commitment. And I said, what is it? And I was 13 years old at the time. And he said, you need to get onto the Jammu Tawi Express, and your family will not be with you. And you need to travel from Mumbai to Jammu, and from there we'll get you. I said, who am I going to travel with? Alone? And he said, no. There is one MTDC, because we had a tie-up with MTDC, tour guide, Mr. Lele, very experienced guy. He will take you along, and there'll be about 60, 70 of our guests who are coming to the hotel in the train with you. You have to make friends with them. That's all. I said, okay, I can do that. So I get onto this train, and back in the day, water used to be very limited in the toilets. And uh, my first visit to the toilet, I found was a landmine of dirt inside. People had not been able to pull the flush. So I came out and said, Mr. Lilly, it's like this. And he told me, Ravi, you have to learn to navigate. And I realized that was very powerful. Of course, he showed me how to navigate those landmines. And by the end, when I reached Jammu, I could come out of there with all the landmines, change my clothes completely, not only use the loo, have a proper bath with 2 mugs of water. In what position I needed to sit for that, you can imagine. And I could come out of there looking neat and clean. So I learned how to navigate, fortunately, very early.
I need to put my kids through something like this. In your book, you talk about that most people think a restaurant is about food, right? But your book actually suggests otherwise. So what do you think the secret sauce is to keep a restaurant alive?
I think it is people connect. By people connect, I mean, if you think deeply enough and widely enough about your target audience, uh, what they like today, anticipate what they might like tomorrow, whether it's food, whether it's service, whether it's ambience, and you stay relevant and move with the times, and you take your team with you, or allow yourself on certain occasions if your team is leading you in a certain way which is right for the business. So I think it's people alignment all around. Even the vendors, I mean, I remember when I ran my catering business, my vegetable vendor in Bandra and Pali market used to laugh at me and say, why are you paying me so quickly? Everybody has a credit period. I know you, I trust you, no problem. And I said, no, 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 I don't need any credit now. And then there was a time when I had a cash flow problem. And I said, can you give me some time? Can you give me 30 days? He said, for you, take 3 months, no problem. So I think that whether it is, your team support, and even the junior most, I don't really mean your managers and your chefs, the junior most person, if you really treat them with respect and understand that they can really contribute, understand how your vendors can contribute, understand that guests are the reason you're there, and you continue being nimble. And if you have to change, either your target audience has changed and you change for them, or their needs and wants have changed, you change with them. Your team is pulling you in a different direction. So it is a people network. And that is the secret of success.
So in your book, you also said that restaurants fail not because of bad food, but because of bad planning.
Yeah.
What is the most common mistakes, like maybe the top 3 mistakes that founders make?
I'd say overestimating the return on investment, underestimating the time it takes to start or to make money, and maybe forgetting to enjoy themselves in the journey.
Not every founder should open a restaurant. Have you ever told somebody this?
Yes, I told. No, honestly, I told Salman Khan, the actor, this. He was very, very gracious when I met him through a friend, and spent a lot more time with me than was originally planned. And he went in and out of his shoot while I waited for him outside, and he had a wonderful concept with his mum's cooking in mind, and he really spoke from the soul. I mean, really, really well-meaning, but he wasn't able to give me time, or wouldn't be able to give time to that restaurant. And eventually I said, I can help you, but if you can't give time, then it's better that you don't start a restaurant. And for many years, he didn't. And eventually, when his family has, I believe they've done so recently, but with someone who's actually running the business. So hopefully they're safe, but never start it if you don't have the time and You're not willing to put in that, give it that.
Okay, so now I'm going to go through a rapid fire. So now you can't think, the answers have to be really short, really punchy,
Uh-huh.
right? What is the first thing you notice when you enter a restaurant?
Lighting,
What is the first thing you notice when you say a restaurant struggling?
cash flow.
Biggest misconception of food industry?
I have a great recipe.
One mindset that every young food founder should adopt.
Act on what you know now and step into each day as the author of your own becoming. If Should I continue?
Yes, well, it's a nice one.
When you shine the light on knowledge through your actions, you define what your future will be, and you will shape your future rather than letting it shape you.
Lovely.
And be that person today.
What is the one habit that will kill the restaurant faster than anything else?
Not understanding, not being aligned with your customer.
What is the one trend that in the food industry right now that's completely overrated?
Plant-based.
Oh, I have so many stories around that. What is the one thing that you have unlearned to succeed in this industry?
One thing, many things I've unlearned. One thing I would say is uh, the the importance of time and decision making. So, time is one of the greatest resources of any entrepreneur. And once upon a time, I had learnt, because that was the thinking back then, that because time needs to be compressed, we must do everything fast. Build 50 outlets in 3 years. You've heard that often
Of
enough.
course.
And every decision and every action must be done so fast that it should have been done yesterday. Over time, I realized that if I build 50 outlets in 3 years, none of those 50 outlets have developed relationships with each of their catchment areas, with their team, with their guests. They can't work in the long run. So, whatever I achieved, I've ticked off some boxes, but I haven't achieved real success. So, I realized I had to unlearn that and learn that there are decisions in two scenarios. One, there may be decisions where you must choose speed over accuracy. But there are also decisions where you must take your time and choose accuracy over speed.
So, the way I'll end up using something very similar at work is we have a normal business, which is business as usual, which is our normal services that we offer. And then we have innovation in motion, which we call special projects, where we are innovating. In innovation, we can break things. In innovation, we will actually, funny enough, give it a lot of time, like 3 months, 6 months to innovate, try new things. But once they work, then we do not hesitate very quickly to bring them in mainstream and then slowly integrate them into mainstream, right? So in the past, I have made a mistake of being very slow with innovation,
Okay.
and that has not helped me, right? And two, innovation today is everybody's responsibility. No longer is it only on my shoulders. Actually, funny enough, I don't innovate as much as I used to anymore. My team, but our innovation speed has grown much faster because our teams have now been given a free rein to innovate. My last question to you is: what is the one piece of advice you would want to have to give to any person who's thinking of starting a restaurant? If you're only allowed to give one piece of advice, what would that be?
Do your homework. Don't just jump into it thinking that you've found a market gap. Let data support your instinct. That's what
It's very rare for people to take enough time. Like, I know people who started a business, thought of something within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, started a business, and they've taken longer to plan a vacation. But they have not taken the time, or they've not gone into the depth, or they're not spoken to enough people.
Yes.
And by the way, I have been one of them.
And I've done this not once, I've done this multiple times where I have started something. I'm like, oh, this is a gap I've seen. Let's go.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, company, 4 weeks later, I'm trying to sell it, trying to sell the services. And like 6 months, 1 year later, I'm like, one sec, I think I just wasted my time. So being a lot more, like rather than starting operations, now I talk to a lot more people. And I'm like, hey, I'm planning to start this.
Sure.
What do you think? Right? And whoever I'm planning to sell it to, many a times I even talk to them as if I've already built it. I'm like, hey, I've made this. Would you buy this? Or what? If you have to buy this, what would make you buy this? Right? So, and that has started helping me. So hence our success rate and the newer things we start is much more, is because we've already kind of pre-vetted the market, made sure that there is actually a requirement in the market and not just a requirement that I feel it's here.
Absolutely.
Because most founders think like, oh, I saw the requirement here and I don't talk to anyone, I'm going to start. And I've done it not once, multiple times, right? So I think that has been a big lesson for me.
No, there's you're absolutely right. And the great thing is that you have self-awareness for correction. That's great humility on your part. Bold of you to say that. And that's really the right approach. There is a philosophy which is act upon what you know now. And that's true. But if you misinterpret or misunderstand what that really means, then you're down a rabbit hole of problems. So what that really means doesn't mean that, oh, I found a market gap, let me act upon it now. What that really means is act upon it now means there's a market gap, let me validate, as you rightly said, let me find out, let me speak to people, let me test the waters, let me do a pilot project and see if it really warrants investing my further time or money. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Ravi, thank you so much for taking out the time and doing, for coming on this podcast. It's something I've been looking forward to for a very long time. One thing I always end with is if somebody has taken an hour to listen to our entire podcast, to see the whole podcast, right? They need to take home something from it. One observation, something, and apply it in their business life, apply it in their personal life, because I'm a very big believer that every single day you need to learn something new. And I'm hoping that somebody who spent time hearing this, watching this, has learned something new. And Ravi, thank you so much for sharing so openly about your journey, about the ups and downs. And I am really encouraging people to go, if you are thinking of starting a restaurant. I think, Ravi, your book is something that is just mandatory. I've gifted this book to a few people because when they mentioned, I'm starting a restaurant, I'm like, one sec, wait. Maybe you should read this first, right?
Yeah.
And but having a guide like this will, I think, help people make lesser mistakes. Two, I think it will also help people who may or may not be able to, because everyone who needs to work with you may or may not be able to work with you
Yes,
for multiple reasons,
sure.
right? But I think a book is a great insight into how you think.
Sure.
So a lot of your methodologies they will be able to understand. Obviously, it doesn't replace the real thing. However, it gives them a great idea of what it would be like to work with you. And I think you've given a lot into this book. I can see the effort and I can see the detailing you've gone down to, the calculations you've seen. And I even checked a few of them. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And I even checked with a few restaurateurs because I was meeting somebody who runs, who's a famous chef and who runs multiple restaurants. And I actually quoted a few things in the book. They're like, how do you know this? These are industry secrets. I was like, I have a source, right? So thank you for writing the book. I think it was a much needed thing for the industry, and for all the young founders who are getting into it. I think this should be one of the first things they do before they even think of starting a restaurant. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Thank you so much, Ashwin. It's always a joy. This conversation has been a joy, and it's always a joy to work with you and your team.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.